Hi, people watching in the future. Welcome to I knew what call it was when I uploaded them all, and now I don't.
Call number.
So I texted Naomi yesterday, and I was like, asking for a ride home for the child is like a big thing for me. And Naomi asked me why, because she's brilliant like that. And
What's
this
something
morning I woke up with the answer, because I'm brilliant like that. It falls into the category of not wanting to be a burden and not wanting to get in people's way. Which is a thing that I knew. Like, we knew that I knew this. But the amplification of it this morning was it's the first thing that stops me from asking for everything from all the people anytime.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be in the way.
So whose responsibility is it if somebody thinks you're in the way?
Ooh, theirs.
So what would it take for you to stop trying to manage other people's shit? Oh, your lip gloss matches your shirt.
Damn, I'm recording. I'm over here like, I don't know. That's a great question. That's deep.
Mm-hmm.
I did not come prepared. I don't have a journal anywhere.
I can write that one down for you.
Got it.
You got it? Okay.
Yes. This is why I talked to Naomi. Hers is brilliant.
I think we are very brilliant together too.
I concur.
Got that good energy juju going.
That's pretty. That's gonna be like, that's deeper than I thought it was. Because I was just like, oh, I just need to be okay being in the way. And that's part of it. And
in the way is an interesting perspective.
Well, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
A little bit of that, what's that word, judgment? Yeah. A little bit of judgy pants going on there.
Well, yeah, that's the perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to be okay with being in the way.
Yeah.
So what? If asking for something isn't being a burden or being in the way, what might it be? What else could it be?
An opportunity for people to love me because, you know, that's also been a part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. We want to bless you. Oh, thanks. I want to be blessed. Except in the moment, it was like, oh my God.
Right. Ugly cry.
Yeah, so true. We cried. It was great. It could be an opportunity for the kiddos to hang out, because that's been part of the asking that has been super uncomfortable is when you pick up your kids, can you also pick up my kid? And they're always like, yes, of course, sure, no problem. And I'm like, thank you. It's not as big a deal to me as it is to them.
And again, if it is a big deal to them, it's really up to them to say, right?
So true.
So what would it take for you? That's where the what would it take for you to stop attempting to manage other people's shit comes in.
Yeah, that one I'm gonna have to sit with for
Mm-hmm.
some time.
Yeah.
Because that one was back here.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh shit, you're right.
90% of what we got going on is back here. Only 10% comes from that conscious place. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been doing it for 31 years is the fun part.
Right?
Oh, I've been aware of doing it for 31 years. It became my job.
Mm-hmm.
You get to retire after 20. I think I'm overdue.
Oh,
I can
see?
stop now.
Ooh, I like that perspective. I can get on board with that perspective. I don't have to manage anybody else's shit but my own. I
Retire.
don't have to manage how this is going to land with you. Doesn't mean go out and be a jerk, you know. Doesn't mean remove all filters and speak truth with no compassion. Okay, sometimes truth without compassion really is brutality, but sometimes we do have to hold people's feet to the fire. That just is.
I think we can
Yeah.
be compassionate and spicy.
Oh yeah.
Because
Compassion and spice can go together. Compassion and tough love, that whole tough love piece. I think you and I, as healers and coaches, experience that kind of thing often. I had a coach once say to a group of us, I'm not here to be your friend. Now, me, because I'm a Leo and I want to connect with everybody and I'm kinesthetic and it's like, yay, community, hug, hug, hug. Sometimes that sounds and feels a little harsh.
yeah.
I'm not here. And I'm here to be your coach. I'm here to hold up the mirror. I'm here to hold your feet to the fire. Yes, it's coming from a place of love. And I also know that without holding someone's feet to the fire, without holding up that mirror, without calling people on their bullshit instead of, as my half side likes to call it, co-signing their bullshit, it doesn't serve people.
Sure.
It doesn't serve our clients. It doesn't serve us when we play that game with ourselves. So yeah, I think you can be compassionate and spicy, compassionate and fiery, compassionate and be a truth teller. Absolutely.
I agree.
Soapbox put away now. There you go.
I like the soapbox.
Yeah.
And what paperwork do I need to file with the universe to retire from said job?
Right? Yeah. Maybe you need to write a resignation letter.
Perhaps. That would be fun.
That would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
I, Lila, hereby resign from the position of manager of everyone else's shit. Effective immediately, I will no longer hold this position. You are free to hire someone else to do that job.
I love it.
Sincerely, your friend Lila.
So deep. My mind is like a balloon. And here I thought like there was this grand epiphany, and it was.
It was a grand epiphany.
And it just got grander.
Yeah. Because and if we flip it around, I don't want to be a burden. So what do you want to be?
A blessing.
I
want to be joy.
Awesome. So how can you be joy in asking?
Well, asking is part of it.
I always love when people say, feel free to say no, but because that's you know that whatever they're going to ask, they feel awkward asking it. They feel bad asking it. They're hoping you say yes, but they're giving you an out because they don't want you to feel pressured. What if we never had to say You can say no if you need to. You can say no if you want. You can say no, but what if we could eliminate that? Whether it's verbally or back here going on, oh, they can say no, but hey, will you pick my kids up?
Super deep. Like,
Welcome
so
Wednesday morning.
wrapping up this year of asking is like, and this whole adventure, because for me this is the second year, and looking at the asks and looking specifically at getting this child places and from places, all the children really, orthodontist appointments and choir, and you're at the choir concert, great, can you bring the child home from the concert? There's definitely the judgments, perceptions, and expectations that I have about parenting and family. I was watching Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk, and her husband Will was on I watched it yesterday, but last week's episode. If you haven't watched, do yourself a favor. Just go binge the episodes. But Will was talking about how he had this idea of family. And he sort of squished his family into his little family box. And Willow, one day at 9 years old, puts her hand on his face and go, "Oh, Daddy, isn't it sad? Isn't it sad, Mommy?" And Jada goes, "What, baby?" She goes, "Dad has this whole family in his head, but it's not us." It's just so sad.
Oh, out of the mouths of babes. Seriously.
I was like, what a conscious little creature.
Right?
And how, he said that was his wake-up call as to what he was doing. And that wasn't that long ago. It was less than 10 years ago. She's only 17. But that was my first marriage. Get in your box. I have this image of family, and you are off script, sir.
I don't know what play you're reading for, but it ain't this one.
Not this
one. Well, we do that with everything. And that's why my half side talks all the time about do you have an expectation or an anticipation? Because most of us have expectations. I'll ask people, what's your expectation of whether it's a coaching session, whether it's a workshop or a retreat, or, I don't have any. Bullshit. You got 2 legs, you have an expectation. You may not be aware of said expectation, but we all have it. We all have these definitions of, this is, like this is family, it fits in this little box. This is work relationships, this is parenting, this is friendships, this is, the world according to us. And sometimes that world according to us box is really tiny and doesn't fit anybody else's box. And so they aren't playing by your damn rules.
I know, you're all stabby. Oh, wait, that's me.
One other thing that comes up as you talk about that with the whole, what it means to be a good parent kind of a thing, I think our culture, at least watching some things unfold over the last few years, probably more than that, even if I'd really been paying attention, but we really have gotten away from this concept of it takes a village. It used to be that everybody did help one another. And now it's just, I don't understand why she can't manage her own kids and pick them up. We do get Judgy McJudgersons.
Yeah.
We all do it from time to time, sometimes in different ways and on different subject matter. But I don't know why she is always asking me to pick up her kid. I don't know why she can't manage that herself. She shouldn't have ever had those kids if she couldn't handle them herself. And right? Have Are you raising your hand because you've heard it or because you say it
To myself.
to yourself? Right.
This is your job.
This is your
This is
job.
what you do.
So back in the day, a billion years ago, or maybe 150, I don't know. I know in the native culture, my half side is, you guys may have gotten that idea, is native. And it was that the kids they'd hit a certain age and they'd go live with grandma and grandpa. Not because mom and dad couldn't handle it, not because, oh, this is too hard, but because there was wisdom in the elders. Yeah. And it truly was the village raised their kids, you know, and now we live in these little square homes. And for some of us, if we're living in an apartment, you know, we're living in a tiny square home surrounded by a bunch of other tiny square homes and nobody talks to each other.
Or they're crazy.
Or they live next to crazy people, or the downstairs clappers who must have been on a cheer squad at some point in their lives or a past life because they're always smoking pot on their patio because it's legal here in California. And, you know, but I couldn't tell you their names. I can tell you what they do, but I couldn't tell you their names. And, you know, and like you said, some of them are kind of crazy and you don't want to know their names. And then there's others that are really nice. And it's like, oh, the dude with the golden retriever. I don't know his name, but I know what kind of dog he's got. We don't necessarily foster that lend a helping hand culture, except when the shit hits the fan as a culture.
Yeah. So one of my missions is to sort of cultivate communities of empowerment. It's one of my dreams. So it's really interesting that I am good with, so I don't ever think about Lee getting home on a Friday because I take Siler to school on Monday or on Friday morning. So I take Lee and Siler to school on Friday morning. Julie brings me Lee and Siler Friday afternoon because now Siler wants to hang out with his bud. And so then I have this extra mini on Friday afternoons. No problems. But if it's not, you know, if I'm not also getting Siler, then I feel like, and it's really interesting because we feel the same way. Julie brought me Siler once. I invited them to come on Saturday. So I work on Saturdays occasionally, more often than I like. And so when I work, the boys come and they vegetate in the teen hub. Our library is amazing. There's a room back there. It's got video games and computers and a dry erase board and board games. And they come and they vegetate.
Cool.
And they eat chips. And I buy them lunch. And it's a grand old time at the library. And so I invited Lee's friends to come and be little vegetables too. And she sent him money. I was like, so how would he feel about, I think I said pizza for lunch, but we ended up going with Chinese. And then like at some point during the day, he goes, oh, my mom said to give you this. And I'm like, that's for lunch money. I mean, thanks and everything. But right. it was obviously, I would have done the same thing.
That I don't want to be a burden. I'm not expecting you to pay for my kid.
Yeah. I invited the kid, but I'm going to feed him. Like, okay. And no, it's fine. I'll feed the kid. Like I came prepared for this.
Because my guess is if he had come over to play at your house and you were making bologna sandwiches or whatever for lunch, you aren't going to charge him for making the bologna sandwiches.
Right. I made an entire pot of beef burgundy and they ate it all. I was really thinking that the new children would have been like, oh, this is a stew. They were like, can we have another bowl?
Huh.
Sure.
Yeah, it wouldn't be what I would think a kid would gravitate towards either, but good food's good food, right? So it really is, and I get that. Sometimes I don't, and this is something I recognized and realized this weekend. The event that I spoke at, leading up to the event, it's like I'd hear from the woman who's the brainchild behind it all, when there were things that we needed to get organizationally taken care of for it. I was introduced to her by a friend of mine. We have a mutual friend who said, I know you two will either, she's like, I knew you two would either just hit it off and click and be peas in a pod, or you would not be able to tolerate each other at all. She's like, I knew it was going to be one or the other. And of course we clicked really well. Our 30-minute call, I think, went close to 2 hours. So we clicked. And there've been times when I'm like, man, I really want to get to know her more before the event. But I'm like, oh, she's organizing this big event. She's not going to have time. So for me, the whole I don't want to be a burden part shows up in calling to be friends, calling to hang out, calling just to call and say, hey, I don't want to be a burden, because it's a professional relationship. So I have kind of a box of professional relationship, looks like this. And it doesn't call just to, hey, sister, So that's a place where I get to look at. And yet this weekend, both she and her husband were like, we need to do some more stuff together. And he even said, not just professionally, but personally. And it was like, oh, so there's the permission slip I needed.
Yes. That was essentially what stopped me from like reaching out more to you in the beginning. Because I was like, Naomi's amazing and Janice is awesome. But I was also like, but I don't know.
And sometimes I think that is one thing that can be an interesting challenge and dynamic with what we do. When you have a professional paid relationship, that maybe sounded slightly illicit, but you know what I mean. When I've paid someone for their service, like I've worked with coaches in the past who I really like them personally, and I'd like to get to know them more personally, but they create very clear, strict boundaries. They do get to know their people and create relationships with them, but there is a certain boundary where it's like, there's a relationship, but I wouldn't call us friends.
Yeah.
And so there is kind of this interesting and sometimes challenging, for me anyway, it's challenging piece in our field is that, do I reach out? Because sometimes it's, oh my God, Lila, you should have seen what just happened, and blah, 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 please put your friend hat on, in essence. And other times, you've said, or when we've been talking and I've said, did you want to process this? Yeah. Now, some coaches out there would say, you should be charging for your services. We reciprocate, though.
I agree.
Because this is relationship. And if it ever gets to a point where it's like, you know what, you really need to work with somebody who isn't quite as close to you in this scenario, because it isn't appropriate. Or, you know what, this would be a better conversation for us to put my professional hat on and you put the client hat on. Let's take the conversation offline. Again, it's about being honest with people, but I definitely get that. And I'm so glad that you were like, oh God, I don't know, but you picked up the phone anyway.
Yeah, there have been, I think that the mastermind sort of helps me be like, well, Naomi.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Meredith.
Yeah, I think if we hadn't done the mastermind, then I might still be like, that Naomi person in California is amazing and I love her so much.
Yeah, we'd probably still be, circling each other, Facebook stalking, and that's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I am the same way, and like with the burden piece of like not wanting to call people, and it doesn't even have to be like professional. Like it doesn't have to be someone that I have a professional relationship with that I want to make more personal. It can just be like reaching out to a friend. Mm-hmm. Like I have a friend who runs a business. She runs a bunch of businesses, let's be honest. She's got a toddler. One of her kiddos is autism spectrum,
Mm.
and she's got some other kiddos at home, and she's got a husband. And I'm not just gonna randomly pick up the phone and call her.
I probably wouldn't either.
Unless I am absolutely losing my mind. Like,
or I could see, I would probably call that person too if I had something that I thought would be helpful for them. Oh, hey, there's
yeah.
this thing that I thought you'd be interested too, so I'm calling you. But yeah, I probably wouldn't. And I think that that's even us doing that. Again, I think as women, I love that you're wanting to create these empowerment communities, not to discount or disclude men.
Yeah.
Is disclude a word? Uninclude? Whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about.
That one.
But I think especially as women, I'll see people, it's like, oh my gosh, just had lunch with so-and-so. And I'm like, how come nobody ever calls me for that kind of stuff? Well, frankly, I live 30 minutes away is part of it. So it's not just for most people, it's like, hey, you live 3 blocks away, let's get together. But the other piece is, why don't I call them for that?
Right.
So where are you waiting to give yourself permission is a great question around that. And then what was that other question we started with?
What would it take for me to allow other people to be responsible for their own shit?
I think those are both really great questions to ponder for the week.
I concur.
And I like the idea. I might write a couple of letters to myself too. I kind of like the resignation letter idea. As long as managing other people's crap, yes. As long as I don't include managing everything, because that's how it would come out if I were to write that right now. And then that would have the potential of me just becoming completely irresponsible. And that's got to find that happy medium.
Oh, I got an unhappy neighbor toddler. Can you hear him?
Barely.
He was just having no parts of walking. Mom had to put everything on the hood of the car, pick up the toddler, then rearrange her arms so that she can carry all the things and the screeching toddler.
This is why I own plants.
Girl, this is why I'm not having no more. Now, if y'all find me pregnant, just laugh.
I will.
Just go with it, because I am essentially a fertility goddess.
Might have to have a new conversation with the universe.
I keep it trying.
Awesome. So those who are watching, are you feeling complete, Lila?
I feel complete.
Awesome. Those of you who are watching this, what are some things that you find that you have stuck in a little box that maybe it's time to expand that? And or what things can you give yourself permission to do or stop doing?
I like the stop doing.
Sometimes it's a stop doing. Give yourself permission to stop.
Yeah. Let us know below.
Right there.
See you next week.
Bye.